At the corner of Queen and Richmond, in the heart of beautiful downtown London, Ontario, stories are unfolding every day. Stories of faith and doubt, stories of struggle and hope, stories of justice, community, and stories of radical hospitality. I'm Kevin George, Dean at St. Paul's Cathedral in the Diocese of Huron, and I want to welcome you to From the Heart of the City, a podcast. Before we begin, a brief word about this podcast. First of all, welcome and thank you for joining me. For several years, I had the privilege of co-hosting a podcast called The Vicar's Crossing with my friend and colleague, Rob Henderson. Together, we had incredible conversations with authors, theologians, community leaders, activists, and all kinds of fascinating people about faith and life in the public square. Now, when that chapter came to an end, many people asked whether I would return to podcasting, and the truth is I wasn't really sure. Life had become very busy, ministry became very demanding, shifting here to St. Paul's Cathedral consumed a lot of my time and energy, and then late last August, a badly broken leg and ankle forced me to slow down in ways that I never really anticipated. But over the past few months, I must say, I felt the itch to return to this medium, not to recreate the Vicar's Crossing. We had some great times at that and spoke to people we could have never dreamed speaking to. That was its own thing, and it was a very good thing. Instead, I wanted to create something rooted in place, specifically in this place where I spend most of my days now, at the corner of Queen and Richmond, in the very center of London, Ontario, a place where stories are unfolding every day. These are stories of joy and sorrow, stories of faith and doubt. We talk a lot down here about struggle and resilience. And these are stories that remind us of what it means to be human and to respond to one another as humans. And so I want to welcome you into that conversation here on From the Heart of the City. Now, let me tell you something about a day on Lake Huron that reminded me of the importance of Sabbath, of friendship, and of delight. A few days ago, I found myself somewhere very different from the corner of Queen and Richmond, very different from the heart of the city. I was on beautiful Lake Huron, Lady Huron. Now, those who know me well know that I love the water, perhaps because I grew up on the water in Newfoundland, right on the ocean in White Trinity Bay. It's always had a way of speaking to me, not in words exactly, but in perspective, and reminding me that the world is much bigger than whatever problem happens to be occupying my little brain at any given moment. This particular adventure came thanks to our friend Jack Monk. Along with my friend Barney and a few other friends, I spent the day fishing on Lake Huron for coho, salmon, and for pickerel, and what a day it was. Blue skies, not a cloud, sunshine, perfect temperatures, calm waters. As we'd say back home, it was flat calm as a clock. It was the kind of day that feels almost too good to be true, you know. The sunshine coming up that morning, the sunrise, beautiful. It was a large day, we'd say in Newfoundland. Captain Rob and Captain Ryan, who own Grand Bend Fishing Tours, knew exactly what they were doing, and because of their skill, every one of us got to reel in a big one. It was beautiful. Now, there was plenty of excitement that day. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. There was something about hearing the reel scream and watching a fish rod bend and the fish jumping out of the water that ignites something deep inside. Maybe it's joy, maybe it's just the thrill of participating in creation instead of sitting back and watching it. Just listen to how excited we all were when Jack landed that first fish.
Give it to her, Jack. Give it to her, Jack. Come on, Jack. You got this, man.
Fast as you can, Jack. You know, he's going to have to, when he gets that disc up, he's going to have to walk back below the rock and have to grab the disc.
Okay.
Okay. He's going to...
Here we go.
Keep reeling, Jack.
I can see it, Jack.
You...
Every one of us had a great deal of fun reeling in those fish.
Surf him right in. Yep, all the way.
There you go.
Bernie's got a walleye. Here we go.
Walleye. That's what I wanted. I wanted a walleye.
There you go.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Right, tell him to keep that rod down.
Yeah, no, he's doing it good. It's because of the getting across the board there.
He's a pastor, you know. He's gonna tell him.
What's he on about?
Just trying to tune it.
And he's from Newfoundland.
Keep reeling. Keep reeling.
He's on his best behavior right now.
Oh, is he? What's he off his meds or what?
Still got it on there, Kevin? Oh, yeah. Go, Kevin, go. Oh, look at the size of it.
There we go.
Nice one. Come, boy.
So you can lose them. Bring way over the side.
This side, Bernie?
But not the motors. Not the motors. Bring it way over.
Keep walking. Way over here.
There, now reel 'em in. Got him.
All right, perfect.
Good job.
All right,
As
thank
wonderful
you.
as the fishing was, that's not really what I've been thinking about since I got back. I've been thinking instead about friendship. I've been thinking about healing. I've been thinking about Sabbath. Now, why those things? Well, many of you know that last August I suffered a serious break to my ankle, and surgery followed. And what went with that was plates and screws, physiotherapy, and months of recovery in a rehab. And the surgeon is very pleased with how things are healing, but as anyone who's experienced a significant injury knows, it's not simply about the bones or the plates or the screws. It affects your spirit as well as all the tissue damage that's in there. For months, I found myself unable to do many of the things I love. Long walks became difficult, travel more complicated, and even now, after a long day, I'm dealing with soreness or swelling, and it's a reminder that healing is often a lot slower than we'd like for it to be. So there were many moments of frustration, moments when I felt limited, moments when I wondered if things would ever quite really feel normal again, whatever normal means. And that's why this fishing trip, I think, meant so much to me. It wasn't just a day on the water, it was a gift. Jack and Barney first gave me this fishing trip while I was in rehab at Kensington, working hard to recover and regain my mobility. It was a time when I felt that almost all of my attention was focused on pain, on limitation, on the long road ahead, and they would come and see me weekly with coffees for a chat, and they gifted me with something to look forward to. They knew how much I missed being able to do the things that I loved, and they knew that my spirit was down. And without fanfare, without expecting anything in return, they gave me a reminder that healing would not last forever, that there would be joy waiting on the other side of this journey of recovery I was on. As I stood on the deck of that boat Wednesday, watching the shoreline, looking at the sunrise, feeling that sun on my face and the breeze from the trip on the water, I found myself overwhelmed with gratitude. Not, just for the fish or the beautiful day, but gratitude for friendship, gratitude for people who notice when someone is struggling, for people who quietly step in and who offer their kindness, for people who understand that sometimes the most healing gifts are not grand gestures, but things that give us hope and remind us that there are good days ahead. At St. Paul's Cathedral, we often talk here about radical hospitality. And usually what we mean when we're talking about that is about welcoming strangers, feeding the hungry, creating community, and making room for people who have often been pushed to the margins. And all of that matters very deeply. But perhaps radical hospitality can also look like friendship. It can look like paying attention. Perhaps it looks like knowing what another person needs before they even ask for it. Perhaps it looks like helping someone rediscover the gift of delight. That word delight, that's stayed with me since I came in off the water. A while ago, I read John Mark Comer's book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Great book. Why would I read that, right? Well, anyway. In it, he writes, the Hebrew word Shabbat means to stop, but it can also be translated to delight. It has this dual idea of stopping and also of joying in God as God creates in our lives and in our world. Now, I love that because if you're anything like me, you're pretty good at the first part in theory and not nearly as good about it in practice. I mean, let's face it, I know I should rest. I know that I should slow down. I know that life can't be lived at a frenetic and constant sprinting pace that I'm at. Yet somehow there's always another email to respond to, always another meeting, always another sermon to prepare, always a crisis, always more responsibility, or at least I paint it that way. We begin to convince ourselves that stopping is irresponsible, we sort of take on this idea of importance. We start to think that rest is indulgent, that delight is optional. But you know, the problem with that theory is that God seems to think otherwise, at least in the way we conceive of God. The creation story tells us that after 6 days of creating, God rested. Not because God was tired, not because God needed a break from it all, but because stopping is built into the very rhythm of creation in this creation story. And so we need to build it into the rhythm of how we co-create with God. If God can stop, perhaps we can too. In fact, we must. But the life of a parish priest or a dean doesn't exactly lend itself well to Sabbath, especially if it's a Sunday. I mean, look, the phone rings, people are hurting, communities need leadership. It feels like the needs never seem to end, in fact. And yet, perhaps that's precisely why it matters so much to have Sabbath. Because without it, eventually we lose touch with wonder. And perhaps we lose touch with delight too. Without it, we begin to measure every moment by productivity. We've been conditioned to believe that we're really about what we produce. And without it, without Sabbath, we forget to delight. And believe me, folks, delight is not a luxury. It is a spiritual discipline, though. On Wednesday, I put my phone away. Well, you know me, mostly I put my phone away. I kept it out to take a few pictures. And I answered one or two things that were critical. But for the most part, I simply paid attention to what was going on around me. And when the noise quieted down and everything was packed away, other things became visible for me. The sunlight dancing across the water, the laughter of my friends, the excitement of an octogenarian landing a fish, the beauty of creation. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful out there. Simply the joy of being alive. None of these things accomplished anything, really. No report was written. I got to do no strategic plan. I didn't solve any problems. And yet the day, in the grand scheme of things for me, felt really profoundly important. And so as I reflected on that, I got to thinking that perhaps that's because delight reminds us really of who we are in here, in our hearts. I spend much of my week here at St. Paul's Cathedral and I love it. I love the people, I love the ministry, I love being in the heart of the city, I love encountering everything we do down here. But if I'm not careful, I can begin to see the world through the lens of something that needs fixing. And believe me, there's plenty of things that need fixing. People are down here struggling with addiction. People are grieving. People are facing homelessness. People are worried about paying their bills. We're constantly trying to find a way to help people. People are wondering whether anyone really even sees them anymore. And those realities matter, and they matter deeply. And I care about them deeply. But they're not the whole story. The same God who calls us to serve and attend to all those needs also calls us to delight and to think about stopping and taking a look around. The God of justice also calls us to rest. The same God who stands for us in the world wants us to pause and notice the beauty that's already there. And I think that's one of the reasons Jesus spent so much time around tables, at weddings, at dinners, walking through fields, sitting beside lakes, sharing meals with friends and strangers. I mean, if you think about the stories of Jesus, he seems remarkably unhurried, remarkably present, attentive, remarkably able to notice the birds and the flowers, the fishermen and the children, the strangers and the neighbors. So perhaps holiness is not found in what we accomplish. Perhaps holiness is also found in what we pay attention to. How are we mindful of what's going on around us? Are we mindful and grateful for sunshine? Are we mindful and grateful for salmon and pickerel, for instance? Grateful for friendships, grateful for Jack, for Barney, for Bent, for Philip. Grateful for a God who created a world filled with beauty and then invited us not merely to work in it, to produce things in it, but to delight in it. Not to earn it, not to improve it, not to monetize it, not to do anything to exploit it or destroy it, which we seem to be doing, but simply to enjoy it. Maybe that's what Sabbath is all about. I don't know. Trusting that the world will continue spinning even if we stop. The world will go on without us. Trusting that our worth is not measured by our productivity. Trusting that delight itself can be an act of faith. As you move through the days ahead, I wonder what Sabbath might look like for you. Perhaps it's a walk. Maybe it's a meal with friends. Maybe it's a day on the water like I had. Maybe it's simply turning off your phone for an hour and paying attention to the life unfolding around you. Whatever form it takes, my prayer for you today, here from the heart of the city, is that you find a moment not only to stop, but to find delight. Because God's gifts are all around us. And sometimes we simply need to slow down enough to notice. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, keep seeking hope, keep practicing justice, and keep extending radical hospitality. And don't forget to delight. I'm Kevin George, Dean at St. Paul's Cathedral in downtown London, Ontario. This has been From the Heart of the City.